CNN obtained video of emergency responders taking Senator Mitch McConnell to an ambulance. The neighbor who shot the video told CNN the Capitol Police blocked the street and other neighbors reported seeing McConnell's face. This was a month ago, and it comes nearly a month after a spokesperson for McConnell first reported that the senator has been hospitalized, but few other details have been released. Let's get to Annie Grayer, who helped break this story. So talk to us about this video and how it fills in the pieces of the puzzle.
So, John, what I heard from a neighbor of McConnell's around 8:30 in the morning on June 14th, this neighbor opened their door to commotion on the street. They saw two ambulances, a fire truck, and Capitol Police had blocked off the entire road. So this neighbor stayed on the street to try and figure out what was going on. And about half an hour later, at around 9 o'clock in the morning, this neighbor saw a person from McConnell's home being carried on a stretcher into an ambulance and said that they saw this person was wrapped in a blanket and that their feet was exposed, and that another neighbor standing next to them identified McConnell's face and saw that McConnell wasn't wearing an oxygen mask. So the firsthand witness that I spoke to said that they tried to ask Capitol Police what was going on, and all they were told was it was a medical emergency. They wouldn't confirm who it was for. And these new details come as we know very little about Senator McConnell's condition, why he was brought to the hospital on June 14th, and why he remains there.
Joining us right now is emergency physician, Dean of the Yale School of Public Health, Dr. Megan Ranney. It's great to see you, Dr. Ranney. Clearly, Mitch McConnell is not your patient. So having said that, the neighbor sees that he's taken out on a stretcher. There's EMS audio of emergency responders being called to the home for an unconscious person for cardiac arrest. Someone is heard saying CPR in progress. How serious is this case if this comes into your hospital?
You know, it's difficult to reconcile the video that you've just shown with the story that we'd heard earlier about there being CPR in progress. So let's start from the beginning. You get a call to EMS about someone being unconscious. We send an ambulance crew out to assess. The causes of unconsciousness are myriad, ranging from seizures, which I and others have speculated that Senator McConnell may be having based off of those episodes where he freezes on camera. Could be that. It could be that he fell and hit his head. It could be a cardiac arrest with your heart stopping. So you get the call, the ambulance, the EMS specialists go. When they arrive at the house, they assess the patient. They say, do they have a pulse? Are they breathing? Are they talking? That's the point, it sounds like, where someone reported that CPR was in progress. Now, that CPR could have been initiated by the ambulance folks, by the paramedics or medics, or it could have been initiated by someone in the house. And for viewers, knowing CPR is great, but just because you initiate CPR as an untrained professional doesn't mean someone had a heart attack. Okay, that's as much as we've known up until now, is that there was CPR in progress and the ambulance did respond. Now you have this video. The thing that struck me about the video, Kate, is that nobody seems to be in a rush. Right. If there really had been CPR in progress, if Senator McConnell had truly been in a cardiac arrest, you would expect that they would be rushing, not taking their time, loading the patient into the ambulance. So that's the big additional piece of information that I think we got today. Beyond that, it is largely speculative, and I think we're all wishing Senator McConnell the best.
Absolutely. And as you're kind of noting, you know, Senator McConnell obviously has been in public life for decades, and he has had a lot of health issues in the past. We know that he had polio as a child. He's been hospitalized for falling in recent years. He has had those episodes of freezing up in public that you're noting. He spent a week in the hospital this year. His office said it was for flu-like symptoms. He's 84 years old. If you have a patient with a profile like this, what questions, concerns do you have at this point?
Well, to me, one of the biggest questions is around the fact that he's been in the hospital for 3 weeks. For an average person, for you, for me, for viewers or their parents, a 3-week stay in the hospital means that you're pretty seriously ill. We try to get folks out of the hospital pretty quickly these days. Now, that may be a little bit different for Senator McConnell, given that he is a VIP. But it makes me concerned that he did have some time in critical care or has some elements of his stay that are requiring continued hospitalization rather than home care. And then on top of it, I would want to, make sure that all of his systems are working as best as they can. His mind, his heart, his lungs. As you noted, he did have polio as a child. It's one of the reasons why he's been such an active advocate appropriately for childhood vaccination, but that can have long-term effects as well. And then the biggest thing before I send him home is I want to make sure he's stable, he's not at risk of falling or having another event, and that he's properly cared for. And I would imagine that the folks in the hospital are doing that right now.
Many Republican lawmakers on Capitol Hill say they've been kept in the dark.
We haven't spoken directly. I've texted with him, and I've talked to people with his office and his staff, and I don't know much more than what the public knows.
I have not had any conversations with him. I understand that some of my colleagues have. We wish him a speedy recovery.
Yeah, no, I have not heard from him, and I think it's a question that Republicans should be asking.
Do you know that he's alive?
I don't. Just the things that I've heard and seen from some friends is that he's obviously not doing well, but don't know if he's alive or has passed away.
One of the reasons why people are talking about this, political people are talking about this in a kind of ghoulish way, frankly, is that the Kentucky Senate vacancy law, meaning what do you have to do if suddenly a Senate seat is open? Well, there's a special election, the governor has to call for it, and the seat has to be empty until a winner is certified. So the idea is that the clock is somehow ticking on if suddenly there's an open seat in Kentucky, whether it can be filled. What I don't know is why Republicans are kind of leading the charge online talking about this. This is Nancy Mace in a social media post. If McConnell is in as bad a shape as Biden ever was, or worse, he needs to step aside. This charade can't continue. We can't demand of others what we won't demand of ourselves.
I think this is all getting kind of crazy, frankly. I can speak a little bit to this personally. When my dad was running for Congress in Iowa, Western Iowa, in 2020, he was diagnosed with stage 4 intestinal cancer. And we made the decision that since it was an ongoing election to come public and disclose everything. The reality is that I think McConnell is doing fine. Scott Jennings has backed up that he's completely fine and he's coherent.
Don't skip over that. You said we made the decision to be public.
Because there was a pending election that voters were going to make a decision on. But you look at what's happening in the Senate right now, they're not doing anything of substance. There's not going to be a Save Vote Act, it looks like. They don't need his vote right now. He's announced his retirement. He's being replaced by most likely Andy Barr in Kentucky. It'll be exciting to see. But I think this is much ado about nothing. I think we should give him the grace and give him some privacy. He'll come out when he is, when he feels comfortable.
Can I ask a question? If you're a resident of the state of Kentucky and need help getting a passport with the State Department, who do you call?
You call Senator Mitch McConnell's office. Well, please, the Senate staff. Everyone knows that the Senate staff is really where the magic happens and does all the work.
Well, no, but I just think the notion that because there is not a major piece of
fighting legislation,
fighting legislation that's priority to Republicans, that somehow the residents of the state of Kentucky aren't entitled to know, number one, what the health status is of one of the most senior senators in the United States. And two, that the fact that there isn't an election somehow obviates the senator from, one, transparency, or two, doing his job.
There's probably a trust issue, too, because I think during when McConnell was a leader, he was someone who manipulated the calendar a lot, somebody who would delay votes for this reason or that reason, most famously when it came to the Supreme Court. Meghan McCain weighed in as well, another child of a Politico, saying, I also have a lot of regrets, almost a decade since my dad's passing. My family should have forced him to step down the second he was diagnosed, which is why I'm now an advocate of age and term limits in politics. I also sincerely hope Senator McConnell okay. What struck me there was the word for.
Yes. This is two things, and you have the experience of having it be both a political matter and a personal matter. Everyone as a personal matter has had to deal with aging parents who you have to take their car keys away and have that difficult conversation. They have to decide what they're going to do when they, if they're going to go into special facilities, et cetera, et cetera. when it becomes more than that, it's when it's a political matter, and not just about the election, but about transparency. And I do take the point that at this point, if Mitch McConnell is well enough to be gabbing to Scott Jennings, he should be well enough to call in to CNN or to the New York Times or to Fox News or whatever to show that he's okay. And the fact that he hasn't done that is quite frankly, leading to these conspiracies.
If I could, because again, I think there's a charitable way to read this, especially if you know Mitch McConnell. He is a very strong man. He does not like being told what to do, especially by public pressure.
Yeah.
He works on his own time frame, and so I think you got to give it to him. Give him a few days. Take
But let me
a
play
deep
for
breath.
someone you pointed out this week who you could describe very similarly, the former Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. When he went to the hospital for his treatment, it became quite the scandal for Republicans. And in the end, he came out, more or less kind of apologized. And I want to play for you the lesson that he took away from that moment.
I don't think it's news that I'm a pretty private guy. I never liked burdening others with my problems. It's just not my way. But I've learned from this experience. So taking this kind of job means losing some of the privacy that most of us expect. The American people have a right to know if their leaders are facing health challenges that might affect their ability to perform their duties, even temporarily.
Even temporarily. Also notice he said the loss of privacy is part of the gig. And I just want to put up some images here in memoriam. These are lawmakers who have died while they were holding office since 2024. And you pointed out many of these names, a lot of Ds.
Well, it's a lot of old people. I mean, I think we should also discuss the fact the United States Senate is a gerontocracy. It is.
I think the reason why people are discussing it is because the Biden thing was this like big wake-up call where everybody was questioning and Republicans
we talk about
still
the Trump
questioning.
thing. I mean, this is the other thing. We don't know what President Trump actually is suffering from. What are his swelling?
We have done many segments on the rumors about various health issues.
Various health issues where doctors speculate his swollen ankles, the continued bruising on his arms, on his hands. I mean, there are lots of questions about when people get to a certain age. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, he's 80. Mitch McConnell is, how old is Mitch McConnell now?
He's in his 80s. I don't think.
Yeah, he's in his 80s. I mean, obviously Biden was also in his 80s. I mean, you start to have serious health concerns. And my point about this, more broadly, is I think the more general point, which is about transparency. What do you owe the voting public about?
What do you owe?
What do you owe the voting public about your health condition?
And here's a fact I owe all of you. He's 84.